Rain tapped softly against the cracked windowpane of the small apartment as Amelia sat at her sewing machine, her tired hands trembling from another long night of work. The sound of the needle-piercing fabric had become the rhythm of her life, constant, repetitive, but necessary. Every stitch was a reminder of her struggle, every piece she finished a small victory against the weight of poverty that hung over her like an unending storm cloud. Her mother coughed weakly from the worn-out sofa. "You should get some sleep, sweetheart," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amelia smiled faintly without looking up. "I will, Mama. Just one more dress. Mrs. Clark wants it by morning." She didn't say what she really meant, that they needed the money for rent, and for her mother's medicine. At 24, Amelia had learned to live without dreams. Dreams, she used to believe, were for people who had time, not those who had to count coins for bread. But sometimes, late at night, when the city outside fell silent, she'd catch herself thinking about the world she used to imagine as a little girl, a world filled with light, laughter, and someone who saw her not as a burden, but as enough. She never expected that person to walk into her life on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. The day began like any other. Amelia had been called to an upscale restaurant downtown to deliver a custom dress. Her fingers ached from the week's work, but she carefully folded the dress into her bag, smoothing out every wrinkle. The restaurant, Le Jardin Bleu, was everything her world wasn't: elegant, polished, and filled with people who never had to check prices before ordering a meal. She felt out of place the moment she stepped inside, her thrift store coat dripping onto the marble floor. "Delivery for Ms. Dawson," she said to the hostess, who gave her a look that seemed to question her very presence. Before Amelia could turn away, a man's voice interrupted. "Is that the dress for the charity gala tonight?" She turned and found herself facing a tall man in a tailored black suit. He had an air of authority about him, confident, but not arrogant. His eyes, deep and curious, rested on her with an intensity that made her feel seen for the first time in a long while. "Yes," she stammered, "for Ms. Dawson." He smiled. "You made it?" Amelia nodded hesitantly. "I design and sew everything myself." "Impressive," he said, offering his hand. "I'm Ethan Cole." The name hit her like a jolt. Ethan Cole, the CEO of Cole Enterprises, the man she'd seen in magazines and news articles, a self-made billionaire known for his intelligence and quiet philanthropy. Amelia hesitated before shaking his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. His touch was warm, steady, and for a moment, it felt as if her chaotic world paused. "You've got real talent," he said sincerely. "We could use designers with your eye at my company." She blinked in disbelief. I just make dresses for local clients." "I'm not really." He chuckled softly. "You're better than you think. Tell you what, have dinner with me tonight. Let's talk more about your work." Her eyes widened. "Dinner? With you?" He nodded, his tone light but genuine. "Yes. I'd like to hear your story." When she returned home, Amelia felt both exhilarated and terrified. Dinner with Ethan Cole? It sounded like a fairy tale, and she had no place in fairy tales. She stood before her small mirror, clutching the only decent dress she owned, a faded blue one she'd made years ago from leftover fabric. It wasn't glamorous, but it was clean and fit her well. "Mama," she whispered, "what do I even say to someone like him?" Her mother smiled weakly. "You say what's true. You've worked hard for everything you have. Don't hide that." Amelia swallowed her nerves. "But what if I look out of place?" Her mother reached out and took her hand. "The right person won't care about that, honey. They'll see you." The restaurant that night glowed with soft golden lights. Elegant couples laughed over glasses of wine. Amelia walked in cautiously, her worn shoes making no sound on the polished floor. She spotted Ethan near the window, waiting with an easy smile. When he saw her, he stood. "You look beautiful," he said simply, without a trace of irony. Amelia flushed. "Thank you. I was afraid I might not fit in." He leaned slightly closer, his voice low but sincere. You fit in just fine. They talked about her work, her dreams, the endless nights of stitching and saving. Ethan listened intently, not interrupting, not judging. So you support your mother on your own? He asked softly. She nodded. She's all I have. There was a flicker of admiration in his eyes. You're stronger than most people I know. As the evening went on, Amelia forgot who he was, the CEO, the billionaire. With him, she felt comfortable, as if they'd known each other far longer than a few hours. But as dessert arrived, she noticed two women at a nearby table whispering, their eyes fixed on her. One of them smirked audibly, saying, "Looks like Mr. Cole's trying charity work in person now." Amelia froze. Her face flushed crimson, her appetite gone. She lowered her gaze, wishing she could disappear. Ethan noticed instantly. He turned his head toward the women and said calmly but firmly, "Is there a problem?" The women exchanged startled glances. "No, of course not. We were just—" "Good," he interrupted, his tone cool. "Then perhaps you should keep your conversations to yourselves." When he turned back to Amelia, his expression softened. "Don't let people like that define you." Her voice trembled. "They're right though. I don't belong here." He shook his head. "You belong wherever you choose to be. And tonight, you belong here, with me." That night, when Ethan dropped her home, he handed her his card. "I meant what I said earlier. I'd like you to design for one of our upcoming charity events. We'll pay you fairly, more than fairly." She stared at the card in disbelief. "Why me?" "Because you have talent and heart," he said. "Those matter more than wealth or status." She watched his card disappear into the night, her heart pounding with a strange new mix of hope and fear. Weeks passed. Ethan kept his word. He introduced her to his design team, who were skeptical at first, but her work quickly silenced their doubts. She poured her soul into her designs, creating dresses that spoke of resilience and quiet beauty. At the event, the models walked the runway wearing her creations. The crowd applauded, journalists took notes, and Amelia, standing off to the side in her simple blue dress, felt tears sting her eyes. Afterward, Ethan found her backstage, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "You did it." She shook her head in disbelief. "I can't believe this is real." He looked at her for a long moment. "It's real because you made it real." Their bond deepened over time. They began to meet often, at first for work, then simply to talk. Amelia found in him not a man of wealth, but a man who valued kindness, honesty, and courage. Yet part of her still struggled to believe she was worthy of his world. One evening, while they walked along the riverside, she said quietly, "Ethan, people talk. They say I'm just another project to you." He stopped, turning to face her. "Do you believe that?" She hesitated. "I don't know. You could be with anyone, women with more to offer, more to show." Ethan reached out and gently lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Amelia, listen to me. You're enough. You've always been enough." Her eyes filled with tears, the weight of years of self-doubt breaking at last. For the first time, she believed it. Months later, Amelia's designs were featured in a major fashion magazine. The headline read, "From Poverty to Promise, the designer who sewed her way into hope." At the launch event, Amelia stood beside Ethan, looking out at the cheering crowd. She wore one of her own creations, simple, elegant, uniquely her. Her mother, now healthy and smiling, watched proudly from the front row. A reporter approached with a microphone. "Miss Rivers, your story has inspired thousands. What would you say to others who feel they're not enough?" Amelia smiled softly, glancing at Ethan. "I'd tell them that you don't need wealth or perfection to be worthy. You just need to believe that your scars, your struggles, they make you beautiful. And the right people will see that, even when you can't." Ethan slipped his hand into hers. The world around them blurred, cameras flashing, people applauding, but all Amelia could feel was peace. The girl who once feared she didn't belong anywhere had finally found